For 3 years, I slept beside him, tended his wounds, and loved the perfect man he had become. But today, the doctor suddenly locked the examination room door. His face was ashen. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, his voice trembling, "Don't react. Call security. Right now. The man next to you." The pale morning sun slipped through a gap in our bedroom curtains, falling across half of the face of the man still sleeping beside me. His name was Gavin Vance. At least, that was the name on our marriage certificate and in the hospital's medical records. But for the past 3 years, I'd mostly called him Honey, or just Gavin. I reached out, touching his left cheek. The skin there was rough, uneven from the scar tissue of a burn that had long since healed. The multiple reconstructive surgeries we'd gone through had successfully given him a whole nose and eyelids, but his old face, the face of the husband I married 5 years ago, was gone forever. Ironically, the loss of that face had brought a strange peace to my life. Ellie. His voice was hoarse, the typical rasp of someone just waking up. His eyes slowly opened. The gaze was soft, confused, yet full of dependence. "Morning, honey," I replied, smiling. "Time for your morning meds." He nodded obediently. There was no shouting, no complaining that the coffee wasn't sweet enough, no plates thrown against the wall because I forgot to iron his work shirt. This Gavin, the post-accident Gavin, was a 180-degree different man. 3 years ago, a car crash on the I-90 tollway destroyed everything. The sports car he was driving exploded and tumbled into a ravine. He survived miraculously, though severely burned and suffering a traumatic brain injury that caused total dissociative amnesia. He couldn't remember his name, his job as a real estate tycoon, or, most importantly, that our marriage had been a living hell. Before, Gavin was a man of terrible temper. He was obsessive, manipulative, and often violent. But the man, now sitting on the edge of the bed, taking his nerve medication with a trembling hand, was gentle. He loved gardening. He loved listening to me talk about the drama at my office. He even apologized if he accidentally spilled a glass of water. "Gavin, get ready soon, okay?" "We have a hospital appointment at 10, I said, tidying the blankets. He stopped chewing his toast. A flicker of fear crossed his eyes. "The doctor again? Is my head getting worse?" I took his hand. It was calloused, but his grip was warm. "No, this is just the final checkup. The doctor said if the x-rays and brain scans today look good, you might be able to stop the sedatives. You want to be fully recovered, don't you?" He looked down, staring at our intertwined fingers. "I just want to be with you, Ellie. I don't care about my past memories. If my memory comes back and I become cruel to you again, I'd rather forget forever." His words made my chest ache. For 3 years, I had cared for him like a child, teaching him how to hold a fork, how to read, reintroducing him to the world. In return, I received the dream husband who had only ever existed in my fantasies. God, was I sinful for being grateful for that accident? Was I sinful for hoping his old memories, the memories of the cruel Gavin, never returned? "You won't become cruel," I whispered, reassuring myself more than him. "Now go shower. I laid out your favorite shirt." I didn't know that morning would be the last calm one we would ever have. While I waited for him to shower, I sat in the living room, looking at our wedding photo on the wall. In it, Gavin Vance stood proudly with an arrogant smirk, his face handsome but his eyes cold. A world away from the man now humming off-key in the bathroom. My mind drifted back to that day 3 years ago. The call from the police came at 2 a.m. "Hello, is this Mrs. Alara Vance? This is the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Your husband's car? It was found burned at the bottom of a ravine off mile 92. My world collapsed, but not from grief, from shock. That night, Gavin had left in a rage, saying he had urgent business to handle, the rough way. I hadn't dared to ask. I had only hoped he wouldn't come home so I could sleep in peace. When I arrived at the regional hospital, all I found was a body almost entirely wrapped in bandages. His face was unrecognizable. His ID was charred. His wallet melted into the dashboard. The police identified him as Gavin Vance based on the car's license plate and the Rolex, still on his wrist, a watch I had given him for his birthday just a week earlier. The doctor at the time said, "You need to be prepared. The damage to his face is permanent. His vocal cords were also damaged by the smoke. His voice may change, and the impact to his frontal lobe was severe. He might not remember anything, A DNA test was suggested, but the bureaucracy was complicated and time-consuming due to the mangled state of other victims in the multi-car pileup. Besides, who else would be driving my husband's car, wearing his watch, if not him? At that point, mentally and physically exhausted from our marriage, I accepted it. I signed all the papers. I brought him home after he was stable. It was hard at first. He would scream in pain at night. But as his physical wounds healed, his soul grew into someone new. I remember the 6th month after the accident. It was raining hard. Gavin, or the man I called Gavin, was sitting on the porch watching the rain. I brought him some tea. "Ellie," he said then, his voice still hoarse from throat surgery. "I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked. "I don't know, but every time I look in your eyes, I feel like I've sinned against you so much." In that instant, I melted. I decided to bury the past. I would love this man, this new man. I even sold off Gavin's problematic company assets, and we moved to a simpler house in the suburbs of Chicago, starting over with what savings we had left. My daydream was broken by the sound of the bathroom door opening. He came out with a towel around his waist. The burn scars on his chest and left arm were still a vivid red. "Ellie, where's my blue shirt?" he asked innocently. "On the bed, honey. Already laid out." He grinned, a genuine, heartfelt smile. A smile the real Gavin Vance never had. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, a small doubt would creep into my heart. Could a person change so drastically just from a blow to the head? From a narcissistic monster to a gentle angel? But I always pushed it aside. People adapt, I told myself. This is a second chance from God, and I won't waste it on baseless suspicion. The drive to Northwestern Memorial's Neurological Institute took an hour. I drove while he sat beside me, gazing at the congested Chicago traffic with the enthusiasm of a child seeing the world for the first time. Since the accident, I had taken control, both at home and on the road. After the doctor, "Can we stop for some ice cream?" he asked. I chuckled. "Sure, but you have to promise not to be fussy when they give you your vitamin shot." Suddenly, a motorcycle swerved recklessly in front of us, cutting into our lane so sharply I had to slam on the brakes. Screech! My body lurched forward, held back by the seatbelt. My heart pounded from the shock, but my reaction was nothing compared to what happened in the seat next to me. In less than a second, his left hand, the hand I thought was weak, shot across my chest, bracing me to prevent my head from hitting the steering wheel. The movement was so fast, precise, and solid. It wasn't the reflex of an ordinary person. It was the reflex of someone trained to protect. Even more startling, his right eye was fixed on the fleeing motorcyclist. The look was cold, empty, deadly. For 2 seconds, I saw a stranger inside my husband's body. "Gavin?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. He blinked. The cold gaze vanished, instantly replaced by panic. "Are you okay, Ellie? Are you hurt?" "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That really startled me." He checked my arm anxiously, once again my gentle, slightly timid husband. I'm fine," I said, trying to steady my breathing. "Your reflexes are amazing." He gave an awkward chuckle, scratching his head. "Yeah? I didn't even realize. My body just moved on its own." The incident reminded me of something from last week. He was napping on the sofa. I was sewing a button on his shirt nearby. Suddenly, he started talking in his sleep. "Usually," he just mumbled, but that day his voice was firm and clear, despite his eyes being tightly shut. "Target secure. Strike Pine Alpha, 1,200 hours. Go, go, go." Perfect English, but with a clipped, professional cadence. The original Gavin Vance, despite being wealthy, had sloppy, arrogant speech patterns. When he woke up and I asked what it meant, he was just confused and said he'd dreamed he was being chased by a dog. I tried to dismiss the suspicion crawling up my spine. Maybe he used to watch a lot of action movies, I told myself. The subconscious is a strange thing. "Ellie, you're daydreaming. The light's green," he said gently. I snapped back to reality and hit the gas, but an uneasy feeling began to curdle in my stomach. There were small things, trivial details I had ignored for 3 years because I was too happy. The way he cut a steak, so neat and efficient, unlike the old Gavin who was a messy eater. The way he walked, upright and silent, at night. And a scar on his right shoulder he claimed was from falling off a bike as a kid. It was perfectly round, almost like a bullet wound. "Oh, stop it, Ellie. Don't be crazy. Your husband has amnesia. He didn't have a soul transplant. Stop hallucinating." We were going to the doctor, confirming he was healthy, then going home for ice cream. Simple as that. The hospital always had a distinctive smell. A mix of cold antiseptic, stale coffee from the cafeteria, and human anxiety. We sat in the neurology waiting room. "Dr. Chen is new," my husband noted, flipping through an old health magazine. "Yeah, Dr. Adrian retired last month," I explained. "His replacement is Dr. Samuel Chen. They say he's the best neurosurgeon, trained at Johns Hopkins, more thorough." Our number flashed on the screen. Gavin Vance, room 4. We entered. The room was spacious, cold, and filled with advanced equipment. Behind a large desk sat a middle-aged man with thick glasses and graying temples. The name tag on his white coat read, "Dr. Samuel Chen, M.D." Dr. Chen didn't greet us immediately. He was reading a thick medical file, my husband's record for the past 3 years. He flipped page after page, his brow furrowed. "Good afternoon, doctor," I said politely. Dr. Chen looked up. His gaze was sharp, analytical, piercing through his thick lenses. He looked at me briefly, then his eyes lingered on my husband for a long, strange moment. It wasn't a friendly pause. It was the pause of someone calibrating a memory. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Vance." "Mr. Vance." His voice was deep and flat. "Please, have a seat." My husband sat obediently. "Afternoon, Doc. Just a routine check today, right?" Dr. Chen didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked over to my husband. "Could you open your mouth for a moment? I want to check the cranial nerve response in your tongue and jaw." My husband complied. Dr. Chen shone a small penlight into his mouth for a long time, too long for a simple nerve check. He seemed to be paying very close attention to the arrangement of the rear molars. Dr. Chen mumbled. He turned off the light and returned to his desk. His face now looked pale. Or maybe it was just the harsh fluorescent lighting. "How is he, doctor?" I asked anxiously. "Physically, his condition is stable. He's very healthy on the outside. Too healthy, in fact, for a victim of such a severe accident 3 years ago," Dr. Chen replied, his eyes fixed on his computer screen. "But I need one more test. A panoramic X-ray of the jaw structure and another CT scan to ensure there's no microbleeding in the brain." "But he just had one last month, Doc," I protested gently. "The cost isn't cheap, and our insurance is maxed out." "This is my standard procedure for new patients, Mrs. Vance. It's free of charge. The hospital will cover it." Dr. Chen cut in quickly, his tone insistent. My husband looked at me, seeking approval. I nodded. "All right. If it's for the best." The scan took nearly 45 minutes. I waited outside while my husband was slid into the giant machine. My anxiety grew. My palms were cold and sweaty. I tried texting my mom to distract myself, but the signal was terrible in the hospital's lower level. When it was over, we returned to Dr. Chen's office. My husband looked tired but relieved. "Well, just have to get the results and then we can go home," he whispered, squeezing my hand. Dr. Chen was back at his desk. The monitor in front of him displayed a black and white image of a skull, my husband's X-ray. The room was silent except for the hum of the central air. Dr. Chen stared intently at the screen. Then he glanced down at my husband's leg, specifically his left shin, before looking back at the screen. The hand holding the mouse trembled slightly. A bead of sweat formed on his temple. "Is something wrong?" I asked, my voice tight. "Very wrong." "Doctor?" I pressed. Dr. Chen flinched. He hit the intercom button on his desk. "Nurse Rini, please retrieve patient Gavin Vance's file from 2018 from the deep archives. Now, don't come back until you find it." "Yes, doctor," a voice replied from the intercom. Dr. Chen waited until he was sure the nurse was gone. He stood up slowly and walked to the door. Click! He turned the lock. My heart skipped a beat. Why was the door locked? The room fell silent, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out. The click of the lock echoed in my ears like a gunshot. My husband, sitting next to me, felt it too. His relaxed posture slowly tensed, his back straightened, the muscles in his neck tightening. It wasn't the posture of a confused man. It was the posture of a predator sensing danger. Dr. Chen didn't return to his chair. He leaned against the locked door, his face ashen, like a corpse. His breathing was heavy. He looked at me, only at me, with eyes that radiated pure terror. "Mrs. Vance," he called, his voice no longer that of an authoritative doctor. It was the voice of a man staring at death. "Doctor, why did you lock the door?" I asked, my voice trembling violently. "What's wrong with my husband? Is it cancer? A tumor?" Dr. Chen shook his head quickly, pressing a finger to his lips. "Shh." He walked slowly toward me, keeping a safe distance from my husband. He turned his computer monitor to face us. "Look at this," he whispered. On the screen were two X-ray images side by side. The one on the left was Gavin Vance's medical data from a hospital in Singapore 5 years ago when he had surgery for a broken leg from a college football game. See his tibia? There's a titanium plate and 3 screws implanted permanently. I squinted. It was true. I remembered Gavin telling me he had a plate in his leg. And this. Dr. Chen's index finger pointed to the image on the right. This is the X-ray from 10 minutes ago. This is the leg of the man sitting next to you now. The bone was smooth, perfectly white. No plate, no screws, no sign of a previous fracture. My world spun. The floor beneath me felt like it was giving way. I turned stiffly to the man beside me. The man who had shared my bed for 3 years. The man I kissed every morning. The man I fed when he was sick. He was still sitting there, his face expressionless, but his eyes no longer held the warmth of my amnesiac husband. They were scanning the room, calculating escape routes, assessing threats. And his teeth, Dr. Chen continued, his voice now a low hiss. The molar structure of this man doesn't match Gavin's dental records, but it's a perfect match for an unidentified person of interest in Interpol's forensic database. Dr. Chen leaned closer to me. The smell of cold sweat radiated from him. "Mrs. Vance, listen to me very carefully. Don't react. Don't scream." He leaned right next to my ear. His whisper pierced me to the bone. "Call security now. The man next to you isn't your husband. He's the monster who killed him." I gasped. The air caught in my throat. Before I could process the sentence, before I could even reach for my phone, the man beside me, the stranger, moved. He didn't stand. He launched. His movement was so fluid and fast, my eyes couldn't track it. In an instant, he was behind Dr. Chen, a powerful arm wrapped around the doctor's neck, cutting off his airway with a deadly, military-grade chokehold. "You talk too much, doctor," the man whispered. His voice, my God, his voice had changed. There was no trace of hesitation or confusion. It was deep, cold, and filled with a terrifying authority. "Ellie," he looked at me, not with love, but with a warning. "Stay back." "Let him go!" I shrieked, my voice cracked, a high-pitched scream that bounced off the soundproof walls. The man, the figure I'd called my husband for 3 years, didn't flinch. His grip on Dr. Chen's neck tightened. The doctor's face began to change color, from red to a purplish blue. His legs kicked feebly in the air, searching for a foothold that wasn't there, while his hands clawed uselessly at the man's muscular arm. "Quiet, Ellie!" the man hissed. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were on the door. His ear twitched, as if hearing footsteps in the corridor that I couldn't. "If you scream again, I'll snap his neck." The threat was delivered in a flat, emotionless tone, like someone reading a grocery list. That's what made it so horrifying. Where was the gentle man who cried while watching a sad movie with me last week? Bang, 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 a heavy pounding on the door. "Dr. Chen, is there a problem in there? Open the door." It was security. The man let out a harsh grunt. In one horrific, jarring motion, he slammed Dr. Chen's body to the floor. Not just any slam, he twisted the doctor's body so his head struck the metal leg of the desk with a sickening thud. Dr. Chen went limp, unconscious. Fresh blood began to pool from his temple onto the white tile floor. "Gavin, what are you doing?" I scrambled backward until my back hit a glass medicine cabinet. My body shook uncontrollably, my knees felt like jelly. I wanted to run, but my feet were glued to the floor. He turned to face me. For a split second, the cold mask cracked. I saw a flicker of regret in his eyes as he saw the terror on my face. He took a step forward, his hand outstretched as if to reach for me. "Ellie, listen." "Don't touch me!" I screamed hysterically. I threw a jar of cotton balls at him. "Who are you? Where is my husband?" He stopped. His jaw tightened. He knew his time was up. The sound of a master key turning in the lock came from outside. I'll explain later. Right now, I have to go, he said quickly. He turned to face the large window that overlooked the hospital's second-floor garden. Without hesitation, he grabbed the heavy metal visitor's chair, swung it through the air as if it were a pillow, and hurled it at the glass. Crash! The thick pane shattered into 1,000 sharp crystals. The hot Chicago air rushed into the cold room. The door burst open. 2 large security guards charged in with batons drawn, followed by several nurses who screamed at the sight of Dr. Chen lying in a pool of blood. "There he is! Get him!" one of the guards yelled. The man glanced at me one last time. "Don't trust the police," he whispered, almost inaudible amidst the chaos. Then he jumped. He leaped out of the second-story window with flawless technique, landing in a roll on the canopy over the lobby entrance below, then sliding down to the parking lot pavement. I ran to the edge of the broken window and looked down. He was sprinting through the crowd in the parking lot, his movements agile as he vaulted over car hoods before disappearing behind the concrete barrier of the main road. Behind me, the room descended into chaos. Nurses were giving first aid to Dr. Chen, who had started convulsing. Security guards were shouting into their radios, and I sank to the floor amidst the shards of glass, my hand clutching my chest, which felt like it was about to burst. My brain refused to process what had just happened. The man who had asked me to make him toast with pineapple jam this morning had just incapacitated someone and escaped like a secret agent. "Ma'am, you're coming with us." A security guard grabbed my arm roughly. "Don't even think about running." I'm his wife," I mumbled, dazed. "Exactly. Which means you have a lot of explaining to do." That day, I didn't go home with a healed husband. I was taken away in a patrol car, sitting in a back seat that smelled of sweat and steel, heading to a police station as a key witness or perhaps a suspect in a crime I didn't even understand. The interrogation room was bone-chillingly cold. The walls were a dull gray, with a large one-way mirror on one side. There was only a metal table and 2 chairs. I had been sitting there for 4 hours. No water, no phone. The door opened. A middle-aged man in a sharp suit entered. He looked charismatic, and his expensive cologne filled the small room. Behind him, an assistant carried a thick stack of files. "Good evening, Mrs. Vance. Sorry to keep you waiting," he said, his voice friendly. Too friendly. He sat across from me, placing a file on the table. "I'm Detective Marcus Thorne, head of the Special Investigations Unit." I looked at him with swollen eyes. "I want to go home, sir. I'm the victim here. My husband. He had an amnesiac episode and panicked." Detective Thorne smiled thinly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Your husband? Are you sure he's your husband?" "Of course. I've cared for him for 3 years. I cleaned his wounds. Mrs. Vance," Thorne cut in, his tone gentle but firm. He opened the file and pulled out an X-ray printout, the same one Dr. Chen had shown me. "Dr. Chen has regained consciousness. Minor concussion. But he's given a full statement. And our forensics team has compared the data he sent." Thorne slid another photo across the table, a mugshot of a man with a grim face, a buzz cut, and empty eyes. It wasn't my husband, but the jaw structure, the shape of his ears, it was similar. 3 years ago, your real husband, Gavin Vance, was in an accident at mile 92. His car exploded. The body was burned, identified by a watch. Correct? I nodded numbly. There were 2 people in that car, Mrs. Vance, Gavin, and someone in the passenger seat. The explosion threw the passenger's body clear before the car went into the ravine and was consumed by fire. The passenger is the one you took home. His face was destroyed by hitting the asphalt, not by the fire. That's why he survived. Tears streamed down my face again. But he remembered small things. He knew where things were in the house. He learned, Ellie. His amnesia might have been genuine at first, but his instincts never left him. Thorne leaned forward. "The man you've been caring for, the man you've been sleeping with for 3 years. His real name isn't Gavin." Thorne tossed the next sheet onto the table. It was an Interpol red notice. Wanted, Silas Kane. Charges, multiple homicides, illegal arms trafficking, arson. Status, extremely dangerous. In the underworld, they call him the Ghost. He's a contract killer who specializes in accidents. He makes his targets' deaths look mundane: brake failure, electrical shorts, gas leaks. He's a phantom. No fingerprints, he burned them off with acid. The only positive identification is his dental structure. Thorne pointed to his own mouth. His lower left canine is tilted 15 degrees. A perfect match to the X-rays of the man who escaped today. My world went silent. The hum of the air conditioner sounded like a jet engine. I slept with a murderer. The hands that caressed my hair every night were the hands that had taken dozens of lives. His kindness, his gentleness. Was it all just an act? Then, my real husband, Gavin. Where is he? I asked in a whisper. Thorne looked at me with a calculated expression of sympathy. We suspect Gavin Vance was the ghost's final target. Silas killed Gavin in the car, but a struggle ensued, causing the accident. The burned body in the car. It was most likely Gavin Vance. I covered my mouth, fighting a wave of nausea. So, my voice trembled, for 3 years, I've been caring for my husband's killer. Thorne nodded slowly. Tragic, I know. But we need your help. Silas will almost certainly contact you. He has no one else. His assets are frozen, his network dismantled. You're the only place he has to go back to. He slid a business card toward me. If he contacts you, or if you remember anything, a strange hiding place, a name he mentioned in his sleep, call me personally. Don't act on your own. He's a monster, Mrs. Vance. He could kill you without blinking, just like he took down Dr. Chen. I left the police station at 2 a.m. A heavy rain was falling, as if the sky itself was weeping for my stupidity. 3 years, 1,095 days, all of it a lie. Our house, the small home we'd bought with my remaining savings, was dark when the Uber dropped me off. The porch light was usually on. He would usually be waiting on the sofa, reading a paper, ready to greet me with a warm cup of tea if I came home late. Now, the house felt like a tomb. Yellow police tape was stretched across the gate. The police had already searched the place while I was being questioned. The front door was splintered from being forced open. Inside, everything was a wreck. Sofa cushions were slashed, drawers pulled out, our clothes scattered on the floor. They were looking for traces of the ghost. I stepped inside on trembling legs. His scent still lingered, the cheap cologne I bought him at the drugstore, mixed with a faint smell of tobacco. I went into the bedroom. The sheets were still messy from where we'd slept this morning. On the nightstand was a photo of us on vacation in Lake Geneva last year. In the picture, he was smiling broadly, his eyes squinted against the sun. His arm was wrapped tightly around my shoulder. Liar, I hissed. I grabbed the photo frame and hurled it against the wall. Crash! Liar! I screamed again, louder this time. I fell to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably on the cold bedroom floor. The pain wasn't because he was a criminal. The pain was because I loved him. I loved the illusion. I loved the man amnesia had created. And knowing that man was never real, that beneath the skin was a monster named Silas who had likely murdered my husband, it felt like being flayed alive. My phone buzzed incessantly. News alerts popped up. Wife of tycoon unknowingly harbors hitman for 3 years. The tragic story of Alara Vance, sleeping with the enemy. Netizen comments. No way she didn't know. She must be an accomplice. Vicious comments flooded my social media. They accused me, insulted me, laughed at my foolishness. I turned off my phone and threw it on the bed. I walked to the kitchen, intending to get a glass of water. My foot kicked something near the back door. His gardening boots. He loved gardening. He planted roses, lavender, and tulips. My memory flashed to 2 days ago. He was moving a large planter with a snake plant in it to a corner of the back porch. He wouldn't let me lift it. It's heavy, Ellie. Let me. This is a special pot, he'd said with a mysterious smile. Why was that pot special? The police had ransacked the house, the closets, even torn apart the sofa. But had they checked the soil inside a flower pot on the back porch? Curiosity overcame my fear and hatred. I grabbed a small garden trowel from the tool rack and walked out to the dark porch. The rain was still a light drizzle. In the corner, the snake plant stood tall. The soil around it was slightly disturbed, probably from the police search, but the plant itself hadn't been uprooted. I started to dig. The wet soil stained my hands. 2 inches, 4 inches. My trowel hit something hard, not a rock. It made a thunk sound, like plastic on metal. I dug faster with my bare hands. A small, waterproof box, the size of a cigarette pack, was buried there. My heart raced. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a silver flash drive and a single, worn piece of paper folded neatly. I unfolded the paper under the dim porch light. The handwriting was one I knew by heart. His messy scrawl. The note was short. For Ellie. If you're reading this, it means my past has caught up with me. Don't believe what you hear from the police, and don't believe what you remember about Gavin. Watch the video. You are my only judge. My blood ran cold. He knew. He had prepared for this, which meant he hadn't been fully amnesiac all this time. I ran back inside, grabbed my laptop, and plugged in the flash drive. The screen lit up the dark room. The drive contained only one folder with 10 video files, all named by date. I clicked the first one. The date was a year ago. His face appeared on screen. He was sitting in our car, recording with his phone. He looked serious. My name. He paused for a long time. My name is not Gavin Vance. Today, the memories came back. Flashes. Blood, money, guns, and the name. Silas. He rubbed his face roughly. My head hurts so much. I remember who I am. What I did. I'm a killer. A piece of trash. He looked into the lens, his gaze full of agony. I should have left today. Left before Ellie found out. But this morning she made me French toast. She smiled at me. And God, I couldn't leave. I don't want to be Silas anymore. I want to be Ellie's husband. Tears streamed down my face again. So it was true. His memory had returned a year ago. He had been lying to me for a full year. I clicked the last video file. It was dated yesterday. His face appeared again, this time whispering from the back shed. I have a bad feeling. There's a black sedan that keeps passing the house. It's not the police, it's his people. Gavin's clients. He leaned closer to the camera. Ellie, listen to me very carefully. I didn't kill your husband. Not technically. Gavin hired me. 3 years ago, your husband found me on the dark web. He wanted me to kill a business rival, an environmental activist blocking one of his mining projects. But when we met in the car for the transaction, Gavin double-crossed me. He didn't want to pay. He had planted a bomb in the car to eliminate me after the job was done. He wanted me dead so he wouldn't have to pay. I gasped. Gavin. My husband hired a killer. We fought inside the moving car. The bomb detonated prematurely from the impact. Gavin was thrown into the back seat and burned with the car. I was thrown out. My face was destroyed. My identity was gone. When you came to the hospital and called me honey, I thought it was God's punishment, but eventually it became a blessing. He looked down, his voice hoarse with unshed tears. I'm sorry, Ellie. I love you. Not as Gavin, but as myself. If I have to leave one day, please remember one thing. The man who cared for you, who loved you for these 3 years, that was the real me. Silas died in that ravine. The man who lived with you was Silas Kane. The screen went black. The video ended. I stared at the dark laptop screen, my chest tight with a volatile mix of emotions: anger, sadness, relief, and confusion. So Gavin was the villain. Gavin tried to have someone killed and died by his own weapon. And Silas, the man I had called a monster, had lived a lie simply because he fell in love with me. Tap. Tap. A sound at the bedroom window made me jump. My heart nearly stopped. I looked over. It was dark outside, but I could see a silhouette standing behind the curtains. No, it wasn't a human knock. It was a small pebble being thrown. A code we used when he forgot his house keys. I crept to the window and peeked out. No one was there, just the bushes swaying in the wind. But stuck to the window pane was a yellow sticky note, the kind I used for grocery lists. On it was a single word: Docs. The next morning, I felt watched. A black SUV was parked at the end of the street, about 50 yards from my gate. The windows were tinted black. I was sure it was Detective Thorne's men. He wasn't kidding about keeping an eye on me. I had to get out. I had to get to the docks. But how? Without being followed. I decided to stick to a normal routine. At 8 a.m., I left the house in workout clothes and went for a jog around the neighborhood. The black SUV followed at a slow, discreet distance. I ran toward the bustling farmers market at the edge of the subdivision. This was my only chance. The market had dozens of narrow aisles and multiple exits. As soon as I entered the throng of shoppers, I picked up my pace. I slipped between produce stalls, took a sharp turn into a narrow alley behind the fishmonger, and emerged onto a side street on the other side of the market. I immediately jumped into a waiting yellow cab. "Union Station, please. Quickly." The driver sped off. I looked back. No black SUV. I had lost them. At the station, I didn't get on a train. I went into a public restroom and changed out of my workout clothes into an oversized flannel shirt and a baseball cap I'd just bought from a street vendor. I put on a disposable face mask. My phone rang. An unknown number. My heart pounded. Was it Thorne, realizing I'd escaped? Or was it him? I answered with a trembling hand. "Hello?" A moment of silence, just the sound of a sea breeze on the other end. "You're smarter than you look." Lost the police tale. It was his voice, deep, calm, and familiar. "Silas." Tears welled up in the smelly station bathroom. "Where are you? You're a monster. You're a liar." "I know. You can yell at me all you want later, but we don't have much time," he cut in. "Marcus Thorne is not a good cop, Ellie. He was on Gavin's payroll. He's the one who arranged my meeting with Gavin 3 years ago." I was speechless. "Thorne, the distinguished-looking detective. He's not looking for me to uphold the law," Silas continued. "He's looking for me because I'm a living witness to his crimes. He's afraid I'll talk about his involvement in Gavin's drug money laundering scheme. If he catches me, I'll be killed in a cell before I ever see a courtroom. What do I do?" I sobbed. "Come to the Calumet River docks. Warehouse number 4. Noon today. Don't bring your phone. Ditch it now. It can be tracked. Buy a burner. Silas," I called out before he could hang up, "what you said in the video about your feelings. Was that true?" There was a long pause. "For the past 3 years, the only real thing in my life has been you, Ellie. Everything else was a lie. But my love for you is the only truth I have." Click. The line went dead. I looked at my reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. My face was pale, my eyes red. I wasn't a tycoon's wife anymore. I wasn't a widow. I was a woman running straight into a storm. I popped the SIM card out of my expensive phone, snapped it in half, and flushed it down the toilet. Then I walked out of the station. The Calumet River docks. The real truth was waiting for me there. And maybe, so was death. The Calumet River docks at midday were a noisy, stinking version of hell. The foul stench of fish, diesel fumes, and the sweat of 1,000 longshoremen mingled into an assault on the senses. The sun beat down, reflecting blindingly off the oily, murky water. I walked with my head down, face covered by the mask and cap, trying to blend in. My heart hammered against my ribs. The burner phone I'd bought vibrated in my pocket, but I didn't dare check it. Warehouse 4. It was at the farthest end of the docks, an old building with rusted corrugated metal walls, some of which had been torn loose by the wind. The heavy door was slightly ajar, revealing a dark slit that looked like the mouth of a monster. I pushed the heavy metal door. Its hinges shrieked. Inside, it was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Quiet, damp, and cold. Sunlight streamed only through what looked like bullet holes in the tin roof. "Don't move." The voice came from the darkness behind a stack of fishing nets. I froze. A man stepped out of the shadows. It was him, but not the husband I knew. The man before me wore a worn leather jacket, military-style cargo pants, and heavy boots. His hair, which I usually combed so neatly, was a mess. But the most alien thing was his eyes. They were alert, scanning my surroundings with frightening speed, searching for threats, for intruders. Tucked into his waistband was a black Glock pistol that looked unnervingly natural there. "Silas," I whispered, my voice catching. His guard lowered slightly when he saw I was alone. His tense shoulders relaxed. "Ellie." He started toward me. I took a step back. A reflex. The fear was still there. He stopped. Seeing my reaction, his scarred face showed a deep, wounded expression. "I'm not a monster, Ellie," he said softly, his voice shifting back to the one I loved. "I would never hurt you." "You lied to me for 3 years," I accused, tears welling. You slept next to me, ate my food, all while knowing who you were. You knew my husband was dead and you said nothing. I had to, he countered, his tone rising with desperation. If I'd admitted my memory was back, you would have gone to the police. Thorne would have known I was alive, and we'd both be dead. Ellie, I stayed silent to protect you. Protect me, or protect yourself? I challenged. Silas let out a long breath. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and tossed it onto a wooden crate between us. Open it, he commanded. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. It was filled with photos. Surveillance photos. There was a picture of Gavin Vance, my real husband, shaking hands with Detective Thorne at a nightclub. A photo of a briefcase full of money changing hands. And a photo of a classified forensic report. Gavin wasn't a real estate developer, Ellie. That business was just a front, Silas began explaining, his eyes locked on mine. He was a banker for the biggest drug cartel in the Midwest. He laundered their dirty money into clean assets. And Marcus Thorne was his guard dog on the police force. I stared at the photos, my head spinning. Gavin's face in the pictures was arrogant, laughing while holding a glass of whiskey, surrounded by strange women. This was a side of him I'd never seen, even knowing his cruelty. 3 years ago, Gavin wanted out. He planned to run with the cartel's money, but he needed a scapegoat. He needed a body to fake his own death, Silas continued. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? He hired me, but not to kill a rival. That was a lie to lure me in. He hired me so he could kill me, burn my body in his car, and make the world think Gavin Vance had died in an accident. That way, he could flee the country with a new identity and the stolen money. Silas stepped closer. This time, I didn't move. But his plan failed. The bomb he planted went off early when we were fighting for the wheel. He was the one who died in the fire. I was the one who survived, my face destroyed. So everyone thought I was Gavin. He reached for my hand. His skin was calloused, but warm. I didn't kill your husband, Ellie. His own greed killed him. We couldn't stay in the warehouse. Silas said Thorne had eyes and ears everywhere. We left in the back of a beat-up produce truck Silas had arranged, hiding behind crates of cabbages as it rumbled through Chicago traffic, heading south. The wind whipped my face. I hugged my knees, watching Silas as he sat across from me, field stripping his pistol with his eyes closed. The movements were fast, rhythmic. Click, clack. The deadly weapon was disassembled and reassembled in seconds. Where are we going? I asked. Gavin's private villa in Lake Geneva, he replied without opening his eyes. Not the one you've been to. A secret one, registered under a shell corporation. Why there? The proof. Silas opened his eyes. The photos I gave you are just copies. The original evidence, the ledger of all the money laundering transactions and audio recordings of Thorne Gavin, kept it all in a safe at that villa. It was his insurance policy in case Thorne ever betrayed him. If Gavin is dead, why do we need that? Why don't we just run? Silas looked at me directly. Because as long as Thorne is in power, we will always be hunted. My face is on a wanted poster. You're considered an accomplice. We'll never be safe, Ellie. The only way to clear your name and save me from a death sentence is to take Thorne down. The truck hit a pothole. I shifted closer to him. There was one question that had been bothering me since I watched his video. Silas, when you said you stayed for 3 years because of me, was that part of your strategy too? He stopped cleaning his gun and looked at me. In his eyes, I didn't see a hitman. I saw my husband, the man who liked to water the plants in the morning. Ellie, my life before was just about contracts and blood. I had no home, no one. When I woke up from that coma and saw you taking care of me, feeding me, cleaning me without any disgust, I felt something I'd never felt in my entire life. Safety. He put the pistol down and touched my cheek with the back of his rough hand. I fell in love with you not as Gavin, but as a man learning what it meant to be alive. If we die today, I have no regrets. At least I got to feel what it was like to be your husband. My tears fell again. This time, I let them. I hugged him, burying my face in his chest that smelled of gun oil and sweat. He held me tightly. We'll finish this, I whispered. Then we'll figure out the rest. The sun was setting as we reached the rolling hills of southern Wisconsin. The air turned cool, and fog began to descend. The secret villa was isolated, deep in a pine forest, far from the main road. Wait, Silas said, stopping me as we got out of the truck onto a forest path. Before we go to the villa, I need to show you something. So, you'll believe me, 100%. Show me what? Your husband's real grave. We walked through the damp pine forest. The ground was soft and slick beneath my sneakers. Silas led the way, cutting through branches with a folding knife. He moved without a sound, as if part of the forest itself. The crash site is just up there, he said, pointing toward the highway barely visible through the trees. The car fell and burned at the bottom of that ravine. But Gavin's body wasn't entirely in the car. We reached a hollow hidden behind a thicket of ferns. There was a mound of earth, overgrown with weeds, but clearly disturbed at some point. Silas knelt and began digging with a sturdy branch. When I regained consciousness after being thrown from the car, I saw Gavin's body had been severed by the explosion. His upper half was burned in the car. His lower half was thrown over here, he explained in a flat tone. Before the rescue crews arrived, half conscious and in agony, I dragged that part of him and buried it here. I knew if the police found these legs, they'd know the body in the car wasn't me. I covered my mouth, nausea rising. Why? I whispered. Because of the platinum plate in his left leg. My leg doesn't have one. It was the most definitive proof of identity. Silas kept digging. 5 minutes later, he stopped. He brushed away the soil with his hands. A collection of human bones, wrapped in the rotten fabric of suit pants, was revealed. And there, gleaming dully amidst the cracked tibia, was a metal rod, the platinum plate. I collapsed onto the ground, my knees weak. That was Gavin, really Gavin. My arrogant, abusive husband, who turned out to be a major criminal, ended up as a pile of bones in the middle of nowhere. No funeral, no prayers. Just cold earth and loneliness. There was sadness, of course, but strangely, relief was the stronger emotion. The ghost of my past was confirmed dead. "I'm sorry, Ellie," Silas said quietly, giving me space. I stared at the bones for a long moment, then stood up, brushing the dirt from my pants. I looked at Silas. "Cover him up," I commanded. "He deserves to be buried, no matter how evil he was." Silas nodded respectfully and reburied the bones, even piling a few river stones on top as an unmarked headstone. "Now, do you believe me?" "I believe you," I said firmly. Gavin was dead. Now it was just us and Marcus Thorne. Silas looked at me with a new light in his eyes. Respect. "Let's go," I said. "Let's get that evidence and end this." We turned and walked toward the villa, unaware that in the distance, a telephoto lens was tracking our every move. The villa was a modern glass and steel structure overlooking a valley. The front door was secured with a digital lock. "You know the code?" I whispered. Gavin mentioned it once when he was drunk, right before he tried to kill me. "His mistress's birthday," Silas said cynically. His fingers flew across the keypad. Beep. The door hissed open. Inside, the air was stale. Silas went straight to the upstairs study. "Look for an abstract painting on the left wall," he instructed. I found it. Behind it was a steel safe. "This is the hard part," he muttered, pulling out a small device that looked like a stethoscope. He pressed it to the safe door, turning the dial with intense concentration. Click. The safe opened. Inside lay a black leather ledger and an external hard drive. "Got it," he hissed, flipping through the ledger. "Records of the fund transfers to Thorne. Dates, amounts, locations. It's all here, in Gavin's handwriting." "We did it," I whispered. Suddenly, the sound of shattering glass erupted from downstairs. Crash! Silas instantly killed his flashlight, pulling me to the floor. "They're here," he whispered. "The police?" "Not cops. Cleaners. Tactical boots, at least 4 of them." Flashlight beams swept the rooms below. Shadows moved silently, tactically. They didn't shout. "Police." They were here to kill, not arrest. Thorne must have tracked our rental. "Stupid of me," Silas cursed. He looked at me, then at the hard drive in his hand. He stuffed it into my jacket pocket and zipped it up. "Listen, Ellie, there's a window in the bathroom. Below it is the garage roof. You can get down that way and run for the woods. Don't stop." "No, I'm not leaving you." He gripped my shoulders, his eyes fierce but full of love. "You have to get this evidence to the Attorney General, not the police. Go to the media if you have to. It's the only way we win. But what about you?" "I'll create a distraction. I'm the ghost, remember? This is my world. I can get out." He was lying. I could hear it in his voice. He was planning to sacrifice himself. Before I could argue, a smoke grenade rolled into the room. Hiss. Thick white smoke filled the space. "Go now," Silas yelled, shoving me toward the bathroom. He turned, kicked the door shut, and fired his pistol toward the stairs. Bang, bang. "Target on the second floor. Move in," came the shouts from below. Coughing, tears streaming from my eyes, I scrambled into the bathroom and opened the small window. Behind me, the firefight intensified. I climbed out onto the slippery garage roof. When I looked back one last time, I saw Silas's silhouette in the smoke, standing firm, firing at the invaders, a human shield so I could escape. "I promise, Silas," I sobbed quietly. "I'll destroy them." Then I leaped into the darkness of the forest. The night forest was terrifying. Branches clawed at my clothes as I ran blindly. Behind me, the sound of gunfire had stopped. The silence was even more frightening. Did he make it? I couldn't stop. The hard drive in my pocket felt as heavy as Silas's life. Suddenly, a blinding spotlight flashed on from ahead. There, the woman. Crap, they had surrounded the forest. It was a trap. I turned, but more figures in black tactical gear emerged from the trees on either side. I was cornered. A man walked calmly from behind the line of soldiers. It was Detective Thorne, a smug smile on his face. "Evening, Mrs. Vance." "Out for a little jog?" he said casually. I backed away until I hit a tree. "Where's your fake husband? Dead in the villa?" "He's more of a man than you'll ever be," I spat. Thorne chuckled. "Perhaps. But dead men can't testify. We have Silas. He's in critical condition, but he'll make a nice prop for the media, the dangerous fugitive killed while resisting arrest." My heart sank. Silas was alive? Or was Thorne bluffing? "Give me the drive, Ellie," Thorne said, holding out his hand. "Give it to me, and I guarantee you'll go home, sleep soundly, and wake up tomorrow a tragic, innocent victim. You'll kill me, too." "No. Killing a beautiful wife like you creates too many questions. I prefer the wife rescued by heroic cops narrative. You become a hero, I get a promotion. Win-win." The choice was simple. Hand over the proof and live a lie, or fight and die. I remembered Silas's words. He was willing to die for this truth. For me. Slowly, I pulled the hard drive from my pocket. Thorne's smile widened. "Good girl." As he stepped within a few feet of me, I did something crazy. I didn't hand it to him. I threw it with all my might toward the rocky ravine to my left. It clattered against the rocks, cracked open, and disappeared into the darkness. Thorne's smile vanished. His face turned crimson with rage. "Bitch!" he screamed, slapping me so hard I fell to the ground, the taste of blood in my mouth. Find it now," he ordered his men. "And take her. Put her in the trunk. We'll deal with her at the office." 2 large men dragged me away. My head was spinning, but inside, I was smiling. I'd thrown away the hard drive, but Thorne didn't know one thing. Before we left the villa, while Silas was opening the safe, I had photographed every page of that ledger with the burner phone hidden in my bra. And just now, in the forest, when my phone briefly got 1 bar of service, I had hit send on an email to the editorial desks of 3 national news networks. They had me. Silas was maybe dying. But this war wasn't over. I looked up at the night sky as they threw me into the dark trunk of an SUV. "Hold on, Silas." "I'm coming," I thought before the trunk door slammed shut, plunging me into total darkness. The darkness in the SUV's trunk felt like a moving coffin. My body was tossed around with every bump in the road. My hands were zip-tied in front of my chest, a fatal mistake. They underestimated me. With great effort, I shifted and retrieved the burner phone from my sports bra. The dim light illuminated my face. My heart sank as I read the notification. Email send failed. No signal. Damn it. The evidence was still on this phone. I was alone. The car slowed, turned, and the sound of gravel beneath the tires became the echo of a closed space. A garage. The engine cut off. "Deal with Silas in room 3 first." Thorne's voice boomed from outside. "Make him talk about the data backup before you finish him. Put the woman in the admin office. I'll take care of her personally." Silas was alive. The news injected fresh adrenaline into my veins. My mind raced, remembering small things Silas had taught me. How to slip a knot. the pressure points on a wrist, and his favorite saying, "The most powerful weapon isn't a gun, Ellie. It's surprise." The trunk opened. A burly man pulled me out. I feigned weakness, letting my full weight fall against him. As he struggled to right me, I saw my chance. A large box cutter hung from his belt. "Move it," he grunted, shoving me down a damp corridor of what looked like an abandoned factory. He pushed me into a small office. "Don't move. The boss will be here in 10 minutes. He turned to lock the door. "Sir," I called out, my voice pathetic. I have to use the bathroom. I can't hold it." He grumbled, but my simple logic worked. He didn't want to clean up a mess. He approached to escort me. As I'd collapsed against him earlier, I'd managed to palm the box cutter and hide it up my sleeve. As he bent down to grab my arm, I struck. I wasn't a killer, but I knew how to cause pain. I slashed the sharp blade across his inner thigh. He screamed, stumbling back. I didn't hesitate. I kicked his chest, and as he fell, I grabbed a heavy-duty stapler from a desk and hit him over the head twice. He went limp. I cut my zip ties and took the pistol from his belt. It was heavy and cold. I found his phone, 1 bar of signal. I sent a text, not to the police, but to the one person who had reason to hate Thorne as much as I did, Dr. Samuel Chen. "Old textile factory, Huai 28. Thorne has me and Silas. If you want to atone, come now, bring an ambulance, and cut the power to this building from the outside grid." 15 minutes of agonizing tension passed. Then, suddenly, all the lights in the factory went out. Click, total darkness. Shouts of confusion erupted. This was my chance. I crept toward room 3. The sounds of fists hitting flesh and pained groans came from inside. I peeked through a crack in the door. The sight made my blood boil. Silas was tied to a metal chair, his face a bloody, swollen mess. Thorne stood before him, holding a pair of bloody pliers. "I'll ask one last time, Ghost," Thorne said calmly. "Where is the cloud backup of Gavin's data?" Silas spat a mix of blood and broken teeth onto the floor. He looked up, one eye swollen shut. "Go find it in hell," he rasped, then laughed a terrible, broken laugh. Thorne Seahill. "Fine. Break his fingers, one by one." I couldn't wait. I raised the pistol with both hands, aiming as I'd seen in movies. Breathe in, hold, squeeze. The shot was deafening. I missed the henchman, but I hit the battery-powered emergency lamp on the floor, shattering it. The room plunged into absolute darkness. "Now, Silas!" I screamed. Even tied up and broken, his instincts took over. In the dark, I heard the chair creak, the thud of a headbutt, and a scream of pain. "Ellie, run!" Silas yelled from the darkness. "No!" I rushed in, colliding with Thorne's henchman. I pistol-whipped him with all my strength. He crumpled. I found Silas and quickly cut his bonds. "You're insane," he whispered, barely able to stand. "You made me this way," I sobbed, supporting him. "Where's Thorne?" "The roof," Silas gasped. "He has a helicopter pickup." "Let him go, Silas. Let's just get out of here." He shook his head, taking the pistol from the unconscious guard. "If he escapes, he'll hunt you for the rest of your life. This ends tonight. Help me get to the roof." On the windswept factory roof, Thorne stood waiting for his ride, his back to us. The thumping of helicopter blades grew closer. "Turn around, Thorne," Silas commanded, his voice weak but steady, his aim true despite his trembling arm. Thorne turned slowly, a smirk on his face and a silver pistol in his hand. "Look at you, Silas, beaten, dying, and being propped up by a housewife. You think you're a hero?" "At least I'm not a traitor," Silas shot back. "This country runs on money, Silas. I'm just the grease in the wheels." Thorne looked at me. "My offer still stands, Ellie. Come with me." I stepped forward, standing beside Silas, taking his free hand. "I'd rather die with him than live 1 second with you." Thorne's face hardened. "Stupid choice." Bang! He fired without warning. Silas shoved me aside. The bullet tore through his thigh. He collapsed, his pistol skittering away. "Silas!" I screamed. Thorne walked over, aiming his pistol at Silas's head. "The end of the ghost," he gloated. I didn't think. I wasn't armed, but in my pocket was a small bag of crushed red pepper flakes I'd bought at the market that morning. A ridiculous, desperate backup plan. I lunged, throwing a handful right into Thorne's face. "Ugh! My eyes!" he shrieked, firing his gun wildly into the air. He was momentarily blind. I saw a rusty iron pipe lying near a water tank. Adrenaline gave me superhuman strength. As Thorn clawed at his burning eyes, I swung the pipe with all my might against his knee. A sickening crack echoed across the roof. He crumpled, screaming. I didn't stop. I hit his hand, his shoulder, his back, pouring 3 years of fear, betrayal, and rage into every blow. This is for my husband, this is for Dr. Chen, and this is for me. He lay broken and bleeding, begging for mercy. I raised the pipe for a final, fatal blow. Ellie, don't. Silas's weak voice stopped me. He was crawling toward me, his face pale from blood loss. Don't stain your hands. Don't become like me. Let the law handle him. His hand touched my leg. The touch brought me back. I dropped the pipe. At that moment, the roof access door burst open and dozens of uniformed officers, state police and internal affairs swarmed in, weapons raised. Dr. Chen was behind them. The approaching helicopter saw the scene and veered away, abandoning Thorn. Drop your weapons. Get down. I raised my hands and slowly knelt beside Silas, cradling his head in my lap. We won, Silas, I wept. We won. He smiled weakly, his eyes fluttering. You were amazing, Ellie. Then his eyes closed. Medic! We need a medic here! I screamed hysterically. The world blurred. I remember camera flashes as Thorn was carried out on a stretcher. My photos had finally sent from the roof, and the story had exploded. His empire crumbled overnight. In an ambulance, a paramedic tended to my cuts, but my eyes were fixed on the other ambulance, the one where they were using a defibrillator on Silas. Before the doors closed, Dr. Chen looked at me and nodded, a silent promise to do everything he could. A female officer approached. Mrs. Vance, we need you to come in and give a formal statement. You are a protected witness. What about him? I asked, pointing to Silas's ambulance. The officer looked down. It's complicated. His identity as an international fugitive has been confirmed. If he survives, he will still face the full extent of the law. I knew this was coming. I understand, I said, my voice steady. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. That he saved me. That he's not the ghost anymore. He's Silas Kane. 6 months later, I sat in the visiting room of the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Chicago. The door across the glass opened, and a man in a blue prison uniform walked in. He had a slight limp, but he stood tall. The scars on his face were still there, but his eyes were clear. It was Silas. He sat down and picked up the intercom phone. I did the same. Hi, he said. That smile was still the same. Hi, I replied. How are you? Leg still hurts when it rains, he chuckled. But I'm working in the prison library, lots of reading. Turns out I like detective novels. Ironic. We shared a small, easy laugh. The news about you is still everywhere, I said. My lawyer says with my testimony, Dr. Chen's help, and your role in bringing down Thorn's network, you could get a major sentence reduction. 15 years might become 8 with good behavior. Silas nodded. 8 years is a long time, Ellie. You don't have to wait for me. I'm just an ex-killer trying to repent. You deserve better. I pressed my palm against the separating glass. Look at me, Silas. He met my gaze. 3 years ago, you were given a second chance to be a good man. You used that chance to love me, even when it could have cost you your life. Now, it's my turn. I smiled gently. I sold our old house. Too many bad memories. I bought a small apartment nearby. I'll visit every week. I'll send you new books every month. And in 8 years, I'll be standing at that gate, waiting to pick you up. Silas's eyes glistened with tears. He pressed his palm to the glass, mirroring mine. Why? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. Because you're not Gavin, I said, my voice full of conviction. And you're not the ghost. You're Silas Kane, my husband. And this time, we're going to start over. The right way. With no more lies. A guard tapped on the glass, signaling that time was up. Silas stood. He gave me one last, long look, memorizing my face. I love you, Ellie, he mouthed from behind the glass. I love you too, I mouthed back. He turned and limped toward the steel door. Just before he disappeared, he looked back one last time and waved. I hung up the phone and walked out of the prison into the warm sunlight. My steps were light. There was no more fear, no more monsters in the mirror. There was only a future that, while it had to be waited for, was worth fighting for. Our story may have started with tragedy and lies, but it would end with truth, and that was more than enough.